Today we're going to be building a collection of Commander staples on a budget. Hey everyone, my name is DJ. This is the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel, and I have a lot of Magic cards. I've been collecting them for years, and so it's really easy for me to just make a Commander deck from the cards that I already have. But I know that's not the same for everyone. So what does it take to build a Commander collection? Well, you could just throw money at the problem, spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and just get whatever you want with no concern for price. But that's not realistic. Instead, I'm going to be breaking down some of the best inexpensive cards that you can pick up to have on hand that are going to complement a majority of Commander decks and just be staples for a long time. When I was a kid, I used to take the lunch money that my mom gave me and spend it on Magic cards. So I'm going to do the same thing today. My budget is about $10, and today I'm going to focus on white and green card draw. The reason why is because you look at the premier cards for this category and they are super duper expensive. The most popular white card draw spells is Esper Sentinel, coming in around $30. Archivist of Ogma doing a little bit better, but still $5. Also, I've really liked Trouble in Pairs. It feels like it triggers all the time, but at $28, I don't know. And green is no better. Sylvan Library is $23. The Great Henge is $55. And Guardian Project, even with a recent reprint, is $7. And you know what? I think that we could do just as good by finding awesome budget alternatives. Let's start off our draw engine by casting creature spells. Beast Whisper. 2 green for a 2/3 Elf Druid. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. You can get a copy of this for $1.75, but because we're building a Commander collection, I'm going to be looking out specifically for cool versions of these cards because I want my collection to be exciting. I'm going to spend an extra quarter on the 30th anniversary play promo. It's got the old border, it's got cool art, and this one's coming in at $2. I'm starting off really strong with $2 because this is 20% of my $10 budget right now in this Beast Whisper. All right, next up is Life Crafter's Bestiary. It's 3 mana for an artifact, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you scry 1. That's actually more than you think. Like a scry 1 every single turn will end up generating you card advantage. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay green. If you do, draw a card. Gosh, I really hate paying green. It puts you off curve, it slows you down. But in green decks, maybe we have the extra mana to commit to it. Definitely not as good as Beast Whisperer, but the price is insane. I'm looking at this retro frame version and I can pick up a copy for 20 cents. Now, those are the cards that trigger off of any creature. Now let's talk about some cards that will trigger off of big creatures. Up the Beanstalk is 1 and a green for an enchantment. When Up the Beanstalk enters the battlefield, and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, draw a card. So it immediately cycles, and then you start casting big spells like you do in Commander, and then you keep drawing cards. You can get a copy of this for around 70 cents. Next, we have Glorious Sunrise. 3 green for an enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose 1. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. Target land gains tap, add green until end of turn. Draw a card if you control a creature power 3 or greater, or you gain 3 life. So this can draw you a card every single turn. I'm hoping that you have a creature power 3 or greater, but it is conditional. Of course, you also have all of these other modes, sort of the ramp mode, the trample mode, and so I found this to be really flexible. You can get a copy of this card for around 50 cents, but I'm personally going to pick up the Innistrad double feature version for 65 cents. So those two will give you a card off of big creatures. Let's talk about getting cards off of small creatures. Mentor of the Meek is 2 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier. Whenever another creature you control with power 2 or less enters, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. Just like Lifecrafter's Bestiary, I don't like paying the extra 1, but if you're playing a bunch of little creatures, then this could work. This card is very inexpensive. You can get copies for under 10 cents, but I'm not getting the 7-cent version of this. I'm gonna spend 20 cents to get the cool full art version. It looks way better, totally worth the extra dime. Next, we have a card that I prefer over Mentor the Meek. It's Welcoming Vampire. 2 and a white for a 2/3 flyer. Whenever one or more creatures power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So you are limited to triggering this only once each turn, but I love not having to pay that extra mana. The Commander reprintings of this card have pushed it down to around 50 cents. but I'm gonna actually go with like the Dracula treatment from the original Innistrad Crimson Vow. It's got a cool border, it looks way better. It definitely sets it apart from all of the reprintings. So those cards trigger off of small creatures entering the battlefield. Staff of the Storyteller will trigger off of tokens entering the battlefield. Staff of the Storyteller is 1 white for an artifact. When Staff of the Storyteller enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Whenever you create 1 or more creature tokens, put a story counter on Staff of the Storyteller. White tap, remove a story counter from Staff of the Storyteller, draw a card. It still needs 1 mana to activate, but I like that you can just save up the story counters and do it when you have time. Having to pay the 1 immediately, like in Lifecrafter's Bestiary or Mentor of the Meek, really limits what I can do, whereas, saving up my draw on Staff of the Storyteller is something that I like a lot more. Needing creature tokens is a little bit narrow, and this is a little bit pricey, coming in at $1. I do think it's going to fit pretty well in a lot of decks. Next up, we have Glimmer Lens, 1 and a white for an artifact equipment. It equips for 1 and a white for Mirrodin. When this equipment enters, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token, then attach this to it. Whenever equipped creature and at least 1 other creature attack, draw a card. So if you already plan on attacking, this equipment can keep generating a lot of card advantage. 2 mana for a 2/2 is a totally fine rate, and this is a piece of equipment that can move around and keep gaining value, even if your 2/2 ends up dying. You do need to attack, but if that's what your deck needs to do anyways, then that sounds great. Happy to grab the extended art version of this card for $1. Sometimes the special versions of cards are cheaper, so make sure to check that out. Next up, we have Aerial Extortionist. Aerial Extortionist is 3 white for a 4/3 bird soldier with flying. When Aerial Extortionist enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may cast it. Whenever another player casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, draw a card. So this is going to be a huge tempo card for your opponents. Not only are you going to sort of like bounce their cards like into exile so that they have to keep deploying them over and over again, you're going to be drawing cards. And you're not just drawing cards when they recast whatever you've sent into exile. Also, if your opponents cascade into cards or cast their commanders, you're also going to be triggering this, drawing extra cards. But Aerial Extortionist is like a huge 2-for-1 tempo play. You're gonna disrupt your opponent, and then you're gonna draw cards as you're doing it, which is huge. This card is awesome, and it's 15 cents. All right, we've got another expensive one, but a true staple. It's Lorn of the Third Path. 2 and a white for a 2/1 legendary human artificer. It has vigilance, and when Lorn of the Third Path enters, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. Tap, you and target opponent each draw a card. This can immediately kill something that you need to kill and have you drawing a card every single turn in a super political way. This card was just reprinted in Bloomborough Commander, and it's still sitting around $1.90, but I really think it's going to go down a little bit, and then you just scoop it up. Make sure that this is in your collection because it is so good. So sometimes these colors will lean pretty heavily into artifacts, so I want to at least mention cards like Endless Atlas. It's a 2-mana artifact, 2-tap, draw a card, activate only if you control 3 or more lands with the same name, and you can get a pretty cool Warhammer 40k version of this for around 50 cents. Mazemind Tomb is a 2-mana artifact. You can put a page counter on Mazemind Tomb to scry 1, but more importantly, you can pay 2-tap, put a page counter on it, and draw a card. When there are 4 or more page counters on Mazemind Tomb, exile it. If you do, gain 4 life. There's a schematic retro frame version of this for 8 cents. Reckoner Bankbuster enters the battlefield with 3 charge counters on it. 2-tap, remove a charge counter from Reckoner Bankbuster, draw a card. Then if there are no charge counters on Reckoner Bankbuster, create a treasure token and a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token with this creature views vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. And it has crew 3. I just picked up a showcase version of this and I snagged one for pretty cheap. It was 99 cents. Now this next suggestion is not in my list. It definitely breaks my $10 budget, but if you are looking to break it, I think that you might want to break it for this specific card. Skull Clamp. And the price of it is really stuck. It has not dropped down a tremendous amount. And so I think that there's very little movement to this card. Like it's been reprinted so many times. And so I think you can get a copy for $4.50. And I think if you're looking for an artifact that draws you cards, Skull Clamp is going to fit this green-white strategy so much better than any of these other cards. So if you're going to break the bank for this super budget, staples build, I'd pick up a Skull Clamp. All right, let's round out this list with some more one-time draw effects. These are not draw engines like I've been mentioning before, but instead cards that just kind of fix things. They get you lands when you need lands, and they get you spells when you need spells. Once Upon a Time is fantastic. It's going to be combined really nicely with Abundant Harvest and Adventurous Impulse. You can get cool Strixhaven versions of those as well. All of these cards are simple, easy cantrips. They can totally fit their way into the majority of commander decks and really just streamline everything. Make sure you hit your land drops and make sure that you get a creature when you need it in the late game. Just really solid inclusions. White doesn't have a lot of this, which makes white honestly a weaker color. But if I have to call something out, I would say your temple is under attack. 2 and a white for an instant, choose 1, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Yes, protect your board, amazing. Or strike a deal, you and target opponent each draw 2 cards. A little bit of card draw to dig deeper into something that you actually need, and a political tool to be able to get someone on your side. And this is coming in at around 7 cents. And that's my list of green-white staple card draw, and we came in at under $10. Look at all these amazing cards that we can add to our collection. Some of them with like really awesome art. They're gonna look super stylish in our deck. These cards are gonna perform just as well, and now we have room for more cards to build out our commander collection even more. And that's what we're gonna keep doing. We're gonna keep adding cards on a budget to our collection so that we can have access to these amazing effects. They're gonna stick around for a long time. We're gonna buy with care, and then we're gonna have all of these cards so that we can just always be tuning, always be playing, always be refining our commander decks. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. My name is DJ. This is the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye-bye.